Well, let me ask you a question. Why are we talking about them? Who they play Saturday?
We are still talking about them.
Home. They played at home with me, watching on television. I'll start with this, Jenny. When the season started, I told a buddy of mine, he's a big Browns fan. I said, y'all made a hire. That was a great hire. I said, you hired Bill Callahan. I said, I guarantee you this year you'll go to the playoffs and at least win 10 games. And I think let's start with that with the Cowboys. The Cowboys, they have an investment in Zeke and Dak. And to me, they're not protecting that investment. I think if they would have hired Bill Callahan, I really believe they'd be in the playoffs. I mean, I think you just saw Dak. I mean, Ezekiel looked more like Derrick Henry and Alvin Kamara. When they lost Dak, they lost a lot in that football team. When you build a football team, you start with two areas. You start with the offensive line or the defensive line. Now, I know a lot of people think that's, you start with your superstar, but that's why you start your football team. And if you have a guy like a Bill Callahan, which actually is like a head coach, he really is. I mean, when you talk to people, I talk to people at the Browns, it says he's like having a head coach, head coach with Bill Callahan now, with the head coach. They believe in the analytics. He's done a great job running the football. I really believe that the Dallas Cowboys, they want to be successful again. They have to go back to being the Dallas Cowboys, running the football first. Because Dak is playing, he's playing good. He's playing great, actually. But you have to set the tone by running the football. They have too many holes on their defense. And for me, Mike McCarthy was a safe hire. I don't think he was the best hire for the Dallas Cowboys. To me, Urban Meyer was there one day, and I asked him, I said, wow, Urban, why don't you take that Dallas job? And he said, nah, I'm not. And I really believe that would have been the best hire for them if Jerry Jones would give up some of the power and gave it to Urban Meyer. I think the Dallas Cowboys would be in the playoffs right now.
Man, you got a better chance of Jesus knocking on your front door and saying, you going to hell, and then Jerry Jones giving up any power, Skip Bayless, because you've been around it for 30 years, and that's not happening.
Never, ever.
The reason why the Cowboys went 6-10, they're a bad football team. Jerry built this team around superstars. And far too many times in big games, his superstar, Zeke Elliott, his superstar, Amari Cooper, DeMarcus Lawrence, Jalen Smith, they did not come up big for him. A lot of his superstars, Ed, you talk about the offensive line, but Tyron Smith is getting old. Skip, every year, the injuries are starting to come with greater frequency, and they're pushing him out. At first, they keep him out of game, and then it went to 5 games. Now it's an entire season. You see Zach Martin, the injuries, that's a lot of collision. When you run the ball and you're as physical as Dallas were when these guys got into the league, that takes its toll on you at some point in time. Zeke.
Both of them, by the way, those two linemen have turned 30.
30, yes.
So is that too old, or can you push it another couple of years?
Well, Skip, the thing is that the physicality in which they had to run the ball for DeMarco Murray and for Zeke, it's not like they pass blocking. They were thudding it down the ED. So for me, when I look at this, the coaches will always get the blame. But let me ask you a question. Amari Cooper makes $20 million a year. Does anybody believe Amari Cooper played like a $20 million receiver?
But I told you, damned if you do or don't, because Washington was poised to sign him.
Well, that's what. Well, it's damned if you do, if you don't with Zach, with Dak. But you say you glad Jerry didn't do that. But you glad.
Well, I look at Wentz in golf right now.
But you say
we got the Rambassador. Does he love his quarterback?
But you told me Dak is better than both of them. So you should do that contract without batting an eye. So my thing, and plus now going forward, Skip, you got Wolf Hunt on the 5th-year option for 2022. I just think the expectations in Dallas, because they're the Cowboys, they're too high. Skip, since 1997, the Cowboys have 3 playoff wins. Only 5 teams have fewer. Washington, the Lions, the Browns, the Bengals, and the Bills. Let that sink in. The Cowboys are the Cowboys in name only. That's it, Skip. I mean, they're in there with the Lions, the Browns, the Bills, the Bengals, and Washington. That's the group that they're in there with playoffs. I thought that's how we judge good teams. We talk about them like they're the Patriots. The Patriots not making the playoffs. We can point to one thing. We can say, okay, Tom Brady. Maybe that was the sole reason they lost. But the Cowboys, they bad. They've been bad. Edie, I won 5 games of do-off, Skip, too, because I told him we weren't going to make the playoffs. Even with a 7 spot, an extra seed, you got an extra playoff team, Skip, and you couldn't make it.
You won 5 cases because of Mike McCarthy and then Doug Peterson. If those 2 things don't happen, I win 5 cases because my team suddenly, inexplicably got hot at the end of the year. My team dominated the Giants in the second half, until my first-year coach, once a made man in Green Bay, but that was 10 years ago, long time ago, until 8 minutes left in the game, there was a catch that obviously wasn't a catch. You could see it after one replay up on the big screen. And my new head coach, who I don't know what he does, he's in name only, I guess, he just had his hands in his pockets looking up at the big screen there at the Meadowlands.
It was cold.
And he didn't pull the red flag out and throw it. If he throws it, we win. Because if he throws it, all of a sudden, a 50-yard field goal becomes a 60-yard field goal, and they don't even try it in the swirling winds of the Meadowlands. What's at MetLife Stadium?
Yeah.
And they punt, and here comes Andy Dalton, who actually had caught fire in the second half the way he had down the stretch of the end of the regular season, and I believe we would have won that game. Of course, Doug Peterson would have yanked the rug out from under us on Sunday night by putting Nate Sudfeld in the game in the fourth quarter, but that's a whole nother issue. So now, it's probably too soon for me to be talking about this because I haven't recovered from Mike McCarthy on Sunday. But, Eric, you being what I think is the greatest running back in the history of this game, I'm going to running back here because my biggest disappointment for this season, after I lost my starting quarterback in the first Giants game, when the wheels were already starting to come off, even with Dak at quarterback, when they had stolen a game against Atlanta that they trailed 29-10 at halftime, you could already see the defense it was going from bad to worst, and it was on track to be the worst defense ever against the run. And you could see it early on. Mm-hmm. Jerry had signed 8 free agents, and he cut all 8 of them because they were ready to mutiny against the new coordinator, Mike Nolan. Mm-hmm. And he cut them all, and suddenly the guys who were left said, let's try to figure this thing out. And they started to play at least credible defense down the stretch. But now back to my man Zeke. I'm sorry, Eric. I couldn't see him anymore. It was his time to shine. It was his time to just take games over, albeit behind some backups in the offensive line. But I needed to see 2016 or 2017 Zeke, and he doesn't exist anymore. I'm sorry, he's lost his burst. He hasn't lost his heart or his will, but he does have a new, really dangerous habit of, if he feels a tweak, he just waves out. And he waved out in the first half after they got it 1st and 10 down at the Giants 16. And it just takes the heart right out of my team. So he runs hard on short yardage situations. He'll run through a brick wall. But if you give him something to work with, he can't work with it anymore. Give him half a hole, he can't take advantage of it. So the Zeke that I saw average 109 yards a game in his rookie year, all of a sudden, he's just plunging. He averaged 65 yards a game this year, and it hurt us because I'm telling you, say everybody fears. Nobody fears him anymore. He can't punish you anymore. He can't take over games anymore.
Nobody fears the Cowboys.
Okay, but again, you start with that guy, and if he's the best player on the team, and I think you guys would agree, going into the year without Dak, he'd be the best player on the team by far. Highest paid running back in pro football. He can't live up to that anymore. And so Jerry overpaid for Zeke and for Amari and for DeMarcus Lawrence and for Jalen Smith. Right. Way overpaid for all of them because none of them lived up.
And then you just mentioned the free agents. He cut 7 of them. He traded the other one.
He did.
So that was a disaster.
Got rid of them. So it was.
So you will give any blame to Jerry?
Yes, I'm going to give all the blame to Jerry. Okay. I can't blame him for the offensive line just crumbling and falling completely. The Travis Frederick, right. How do you blame anybody for that? He's got a syndrome, and he just says, I got to stop. Right. I got to quit. Right. Well, again, if they had stayed healthy all year, we would have won the division.
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah, we would have.
No, you would have been easy. You were healthy all last year.
Oh, stop it.
And
so Skip. So
yeah, go, Eric.
What's your question? Your question is basically you think Zeke has lost a step or two. Well, look, first of all, Zeke's been in the league what 5 years. Yeah. And look, you're never the same back as when you first came to the league. No. Zeke still has it. Like I told you before, and I really believe this. I said, if y'all would have hired a guy like Bill Callahan, I think you'd have saw a difference, even the backup players, because one thing